to another episode of Real Estate Real Talk with me, your host, Gilson Torquato. Our guest today is Tumelo Ramushu, currently portfolio manager at Moana Properties and also the vice president of the IREM chapter, the Gauteng chapter, number 123. Mr. Tumelo, it's a pleasure to be with you today. How are you, sir?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, Gilson.
That's awesome. Thank you for taking this meeting, even though you ran into a bit of a complication. It's just a testament of the professional that you are. You weren't going to make me wait another minute. You said we'll do the interview in the car, even though you're not fully dressed, and you're not comfortable. But thank you so much for tolerating me and accepting to do this meeting right now, sir. I'd like to start off by allowing the interviewee to speak a bit about themselves. Who is Tumelo? What are you currently doing? Tell us a bit more about your professional career and your professional self.
Okay. Well, I am a property professional within the management space of real estate. Like you said, I'm a portfolio manager at Moana Properties. I'm looking after currently about 105 buildings. So that is including commercial, industrial, residential, and retail, scattered across about 4 provinces. I've been in the industry for about 10 years, commenced my career at the Joshua Door Group under the property management and store development department. Then transitioned to the landlord side of things. I've been captivated since then. I hold a number of qualifications from WITS, UJ, and UP, and other institutions of higher learning. I've been a lover of academics for quite some time. I also lecture at WITS for the past 4 years, having been responsible for the Bachelor of Science in Property Studies, postgraduate diploma in property development and management, and also the SAPOA PMP. I'm a married man with 2 beautiful children, boy and a girl. I enjoy the outdoors and have a keen interest in MMA. I hold a up myself in jiu-jitsu. I also enjoy good documentary now and again. So, that's for me in a nutshell. A little bit about myself. So I also have quite a deep love for property, and purely because I think with property management there's quite a number of skills that you either have or you start honing as you go along. I started with an honors in property valuation, but I soon quickly learned that I think valuation is one aspect of the property industry I'd like to understand, and obviously it has put me in good stead because I'm privileged enough to understand the financial side. I also understand the technical side, so that along with the management side allows quite a nice melting pot. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Okay, that's a good description. I appreciate that. So now we're going to go on to the meat and the reason behind this interview, which is IREM, right? IREM is fairly new in South Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about IREM, please? In terms of what it stands for, where it came from, and its purpose.
IREM basically stands for the Institute of Real Estate Management. And it's essentially an organization whose role is to professionalize the real estate management profession. It's an institute and not a trade organization. And it's important that we distinguish that because essentially it entails its primary role to be the proliferation of existence of designated real estate managers whose pillars are rested on ethical conduct and behavior, along with relevant asset experience and continuous professional development. The role of IREM in the South African property market as an institute is to essentially influence the industry through competent property professionals. So real estate property management is one profession amongst a few that has no formalized regulatory body in South Africa and has no formal qualification to guide the aptitude requirements of the role. So as it was and currently still is, many property firms in the industry have relied heavily on skill sets of other similar, if not complementary professions such as accounting, law, engineering, and finance to provide guidance and leadership to this industry. Although an apt stance, considering that property management is quite dynamic and it requires frequent analytical skills, our profession cannot remain in this periphery. So essentially, when you look at IREM ultimately is intending to professionalize the real estate industry by providing competent property professionals.
Okay, that's good to know. How does IREM cooperate with the EAAB? Because I do understand that the EAAB tends to currently regulate some of the real estate professionals who focus on the sale and the management of real estate assets.
Yeah. So I mean, at this juncture, there's no formal relationship with the EAAB. However, one of the requirements for application to take the assessment, IREM requires you to hold a license, an estate agent's license, and they normally describe it as a license that is basically consented within the domestic boundaries of your country. So in our instance, it's the EAAB, which is the Estate Agencies Affairs Board. The pillars that basically IREM rests on, one of those include ethical conduct. I mean, if you understand the EAAB, I mean, you cannot purport yourself to be a real estate agent unless you have a license. And so IREM understands and appreciates such requirements that before you can actually even apply for the assessment, and in as far as it is actually required of your role, you are supposed to essentially hold your EAAB license. So when you are essentially either an intern or a full principal, those rules will definitely apply to the CPM assessment itself. So at this point in time, I could say that we recognize and appreciate the EAAB, and hopefully at some point in time we can definitely get a relationship established, because if you think about it, as a property manager, you do purport yourself to be an estate agent, and those parameters include you leasing as well as you selling property, and that's essentially what a property manager also does. So that basically aligns to those requirements. But at this juncture, we do not have a formal relationship with EAAB. But I think one of the immediate requirements would be for them to also recognize IREM as one of those bodies in which they collaborate.
Yeah, I think once that happens, it will be a significant game changer in the real estate market.
Correct.
That relationship needs to happen soon.
And in fact, you're quite right, because I think when and certainly for myself, when one looks at the opportunities IREM has in terms of the CPM designation, we're basically looking at the commercial industry. So commercial meaning that both offices and industrial as well as retail, but there's also a designation from IREM called the ARM, which is the Accredited Residential Manager, which we don't have at this point in time. And obviously, in time, we will definitely try to import it into our industry as well. But nevertheless, the CPM designation still allows for those who also manage residential to be part of the designation itself. But if you look at the estate agent industry, there's a lot of small agencies that don't necessarily manage that significant portfolio size, but have definitely a lot of experienced estate agents to whom can actually benefit, can find benefit in IREM's CPM designation. So I think there's going to be quite a number of opportunities in that space, so that those who are also estate agents don't necessarily have to just have the RD5, or I think it's RD4 that is required of them, but they can actually then start pursuing a little bit more recognized designations that can ultimately put them in good stead.
No, that's we look forward to that day in anticipation. With regards to the real estate profession, as you mentioned, you started off as a valuer. There are other real estate professions involved in the whole property sphere. Do you think that other fields or other professions in the real estate profession, besides the property manager, will benefit from a IREM course or IREM designation?
Well, definitely, I think so. And purely because when one looks at property management, it's a very dynamic profession that cuts across various professions, from the legal fraternity, from the market and economic spheres, the built environment, to operations and logistics. Because of its versatility, nature or function, it enables those with a keen interest or focus on property to gain deeper understanding of property, right? So when you look at IREM, essentially, it has a lot of benefit for those in very much related industries, in the sense that it then allows them to transition or even reroute their careers. So we've seen property developers who've been able to augment their skills in development with that of management, which has then metamorphed their trajectory in how they dealt with property investments. So in other words, we've had people who started off as developers or even architects, and purely looked at property from that perspective, from a very technical perspective. And even though they had an understanding of how valuable property can be if you hold it, depending on your investment horizon, they were not necessarily skilled enough to manage that property or sweat the property in order for them to actually derive that benefit. So they were more of developers and architects from a technical perspective. But then obviously with the skills that they then started understanding from an IREM perspective, they were then able to also transition how they looked at property, not just from a development perspective, but also from a management perspective. There's others also within the same built environment who probably would be like quantity surveyors or construction managers, and have been able to enhance their career trajectories beyond the construction profession as well. There's others from a legal or a marketing background who've also been able to tap into markets not necessarily available to them outside of their initial career stream. So what we've seen are professionals who've been able to colorfully reroute their career and investment paths. And it's just interesting when you also have these discussions with them that, I mean, their discussions also evolve from what they initially knew to what they now know. And the designation itself then allows you, and not just the designation, but the curriculum that is underpinned by the designation. It allows you to then start merging some of these disciplines and what you know from your initial career stream in such a way that then allows you to now start connecting the dots. And we've had quite a number of those where some of them actually ended their feasibilities at the development phase, but then we're not able to then transition that to something like a management plan, whereby you then take the building from a tenanted basis to an investment basis, where you can then sweat the asset to the point that you are able to actually let go of it at a significant profit. So it does have that benefit and especially underpinning its curriculum, to enable any real estate practitioner to have a much more deeper understanding of real estate.
Okay. Okay. Is this a designation that is only applicable to professionals, or is it also applicable to corporate entities?
Well, it, similarly with the ARM, we do not have at the moment the AMO, which is the Accredited Management Organization designation. Now, we definitely working towards importing that as well and introducing it into this market. And the thing is that the AMO designation definitely has its own benefit. I mean, if I were to just give a bit of an example, using, for example, your RICS organizations, where many of these organizations that are multinational in nature definitely want to have a member of the RICS organization because they are quite comfortable with the type of professional that they will be entrusting their business with. It would be the same instance with an AMO and a CPM, where multinational companies that definitely are looking at the property space within South Africa to entrust their business with either an AMO or a CPM, because there's a benchmark or a standardized curriculum that they are aware of, that this person that we're entrusting this business with will be able to act ethically, and they would be able to demonstrate their aptitude in terms of what is required to sweat that asset. So yes, there is a designation for organizations, and we're still working on that. But once it does come through, I think it's also going to allow South African businesses to be able to compete internationally.
Okay. In terms of your acceptability, in terms of dealing with your clients, how have your clients received this designation? Is it something that your clients are currently looking for? What is the sentiment in the market at the moment with regards to that?
Yeah. Well, I'd want to be candid as possible. Like you've rightfully mentioned in your opening statement, not a lot of people actually understand this designation. Not a lot of people understand IREM. And what that means is that the requirement for the designation or members of IREM is still a bit nascent, and it's actually going to grow. We do believe that it's definitely going to grow. And obviously, in the past 3 years, with essentially just 9 of us, there's about 80 of us now. So there has been quite significant inroads. We've seen its demand quite significantly in the DPW as well, where we've got a number of professionals within the public space that are now CPMs, and they essentially hold quite high positions, which means that they're able to impact their workspace, and they're able to also influence a lot of their operations. But I think what's most important, rather than the market, and I think the market will then be a consequence of this, I think it's the curriculum. I think we should not move our focus, or rather shift the focus from what you actually get from this curriculum. The one thing that you'll definitely get is the confidence in which you operate as a real estate manager. And that will be underpinned by the skills and the knowledge that you would acquire from this course. And this course will then also enhance or even reinforce what you would probably know in terms of property and some of the initial career streams that you probably would be you would have had in place before the designation. So what it would then do for you is to allow you to be a well-rounded property practitioner. The consequence thereof, I think, will come in time as the designation and the organization gain a little bit more recognition. And it will be then that emblem of this excellence that we are striving for. Because, like I've mentioned, I think the confusion shouldn't be between an institute and a trade organization. We are there just to essentially upskill and nurture the ongoing or continuous professional development of our members. And that basically is important because that's the mouthpiece in which this designation will definitely ripple its effect over the market. So at this point in time, there has been quite a lot of recognition of the designation. But I think for the members themselves and for those in whom benefit in terms of the designation, they've seen quite a number of achievements in how they conduct their businesses, how they conduct their responsibilities at work because of what they now understand in property.
Yeah, and I believe to manage over 100 properties, you do need some help.
So I've got about 4 property managers. I've got 3 facilities managers, 2 regional facilities managers. I've got 1 senior facilities manager. I've got accountants. I've got creditors. I've got debtors and a leasing team. So I have definitely got a team that assists, as well as those who would be on site, like handymen, center managers, building managers, etc.
No, definitely. Okay, so you spoke a lot about the curriculum, right? How do people get access to the curriculum? How do they join IREM? How do they start learning this curriculum that you spoke of so highly of?
So I think there are a number of streams. I think at the moment we're quite focused on what's been recently launched, which are the block courses. So maybe if I could break it down.
Okay.
Initially, we were aligned with VETS, who's our educational partner, and we still are, definitely. And what was then a requirement by IREM when all the initial documentations for registration were submitted was for the holders of a PGDIP, Property Development and Management degree that is currently offered by VETS. A holder of that degree enabled them to then be fast-tracked to what we call a Block 4 course, or rather what we've also affectionately started calling the Winter School. If you had that degree, you were then fast-tracked into Block 4, and then obviously you would then take a block week that includes almost like a crash course of about a 3 or 4 day instruction, and then the 5th, 6th, and 7th day you were just then having to write assessments, which included the MPSA exam, and the MPSA basically is the Management Plan Skills Assessment exam. Then you have to take an ethics exam, and then obviously you have to do a management plan. That was how initially in 2017, I believe, we aligned or rather facilitated the designation itself. But then fast forward, what then happened is that in 2018, we included the Bachelor of Science in Property Studies. So they were not necessarily geared up already to take on the Winter School or the Block 4 course, but then their curriculum was also aligned to the MPSA assessment. So we then were able to take one of the courses, which was the Real Estate and Asset Management course, and align it to the MPSA. We then also aligned the SAPOA PMP, which also had its assessments as well as its curriculum aligned to the firstly the IREM curriculum, and also then the MPSA assessment. So then that brought the 3 streams into the opportunities relating to the MPSA in terms of its curriculum. But then 2020, what we then also were able to achieve is that we got into another agreement with IREM headquarters to offer block courses, because we saw an opportunity that there's those who probably have got a lot of experience but then don't have a degree, or those who've got a degree but then were outside of the realms of this PGDIP that was firstly recognized as the official course in which you could take the assessment. So it left a lot of people out, and I think it has been an ongoing learning period throughout these 3 years of our existence. So those are the 2 streams at the moment that you do have. You've got either the degree holder stream, and obviously whether you've got the PG dip in property development or you've got a different degree but then has its relation to property, obviously after its assessment in terms of what is offered in that degree. That is one aspect of which you can actually gain access to the Block 4. And then you also got the block courses as well that were introduced now in 2020. And those block courses are essentially to solidify any candidate's understanding of property and what would be expected out of the management plan skills assessment. The block courses are essentially spread out over 3 blocks, which is the first block that would cover a number of marketing and leasing strategies of various real estate assets. Then the second block would be looking at like maintenance operations, budgeting, cash flows, and financing and loan analysis for investment performance. And then you've got your block 3s, which is going to be also your financial or analytical courses, including performance and valuation of investment, real estate, as well as asset analysis. And the completion of block 3 then allows you to then join block 4. And in that block 4, then you'll be amongst the likes of those who've got a degree and who are fast-tracked into block 4. And therefore, then in block 4, you then write the final MPSA examination, spread out over the 3 assessments, which I mentioned were the ethics, the MPSA exam itself, as well as the management plan skills assessment as well.
Okay. So how do you?
Those are the 2 streams that you can access the designation itself.
Okay. And now, how do professionals that are currently watching this interview get in touch with IREM to sign up, submit their documentation so that IREM can review it and see if they are capable of actually signing up for the designation? How would they reach you?
Yeah. The one thing about starting an organization is that, you get a lot of teething problems. But, what has been amazing with the current EXCO is that we've been able to overcome some of those and we've been able to actually put in place some of these learnings. So we do have a website. It's www.irem.org.za. We've now recently launched the LinkedIn social page. We do have a Facebook account, but I think we're going to try to increase much of our presence and our engagements on LinkedIn, because we've had quite a number of people reaching out on LinkedIn. And essentially, your website has much of the information that we're referring to. But with the current circumstances that we are under, I think we've also been looking at migrating a number of things online. So we're in the early stages, but we're looking towards offering some of these courses as well as even the winter school online, because we've had also people reaching out across Africa. We've got people reaching out from across the different provinces who find it logistically impossible or rather challenging to come through to Gauteng to come and write it. We've been also busy with relations with UCT, whereby some of their students would be interested as well to come the assessment or the designation itself. So I think this has provided an opportunity for us to bolster our online presence and online resources, and we're hoping that we can be able to also migrate our registration process to online. But at the moment, I think we still are on a paper-based process, and much of the information is definitely on our website.
Okay, no, it's nice to know that you're very accessible. You're on basically every single page. That's very good to know. You spoke about Africa now.
Yeah.
Do you see the potential for IREM to grow substantially throughout Africa? given that South Africa is a very developed has a very developed property market in comparison to the rest of Africa, do you see this designation holding weight throughout Africa in the near future?
I think it's a very good question. I mean, Africa has quite a number of opportunities. I think we do have two CPM members who basically are from the various countries on the continent, and both of them actually had this designation before us in South Africa, or rather, I mean, besides our chapter president, I think there probably would have been the only three people on the continent that had the designation. And interestingly enough, on one of the global conferences that we went to, we met up with a gentleman who is essentially quite big in Canada, and he's actually South African by birth, and he actually also went through the entire process. But coming back to your question, I think there is opportunity. We've had, like I said, a bit of interest across the continent. There are already markets on the continent that we can access and obviously have the designation proliferate. Obviously, when one just looks at your Egypt as well as your Nigeria, which are one of the biggest markets also on the continent, there is also opportunity for us to actually grow the brand, not from a South African perspective, but from a continental perspective. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to preempt quite a lot, but I do believe that there is a number of opportunities that we're looking to exploit. In fact, we were looking at Zambia and Zimbabwe, so there was a number of interest in the SADC regions, and we're wanting to exploit that quite vigorously in the next immediate future. But I think more than anything, I think we do have quite a number of opportunities that we'd like to look at in Africa, so that the brand as well as the designation can definitely be grown on the continent.
Okay, no, that's important. I look forward for that. I look forward to that. One more question I'd like to ask. Another question that I would like to ask with regards to the IREM course is what is the cost implication to the course? What do these professionals that want the designation have to be prepared to pay?
So,
that's what I said.
So the thing is that I think we look at this from the perspective of personal development, personal investment. Yeah. But just like with any course or degree, there is obviously a financial there is a financial requirement behind it. The past 3 years, we've been sponsoring quite a number of candidates. But obviously that was to essentially bolster and solidify the market with this type of designation. But we've seen quite an uptake, and some of the organizations are now even paying for their own candidates. So, I mean, there is a figure that you pay. I mean, that amount I can't give you in rand terms because obviously of the fluctuation of the rand or the exchange rate. But you are definitely looking between $3,000 to $5,000 for the exam itself. But then thereafter, you would then have to be looking at a cost of about between $150 to $200 for the annual membership fees.
Okay, and what does that membership grant you? Do you, besides the designation, do you get access to material? What do you get? What are the benefits of the designation besides the knowledge that you already gained from the coursework that you get?
Yeah. So like I said, one of the other pillars of IREM is the continuous professional development. So that means that, yes, you've gotten now your designation. That doesn't mean that you close your books, and hopefully not. So there's quite a number of resources on IREM's international website as well. So they stream quite a number of webinars that deal with a whole lot of range of issues relating to property. There are also a number of white papers that they produce, white papers that relate specifically to the property industry. So you do get white papers that ultimately look at the sustainability of property, whether from a maintenance or an operational perspective. They also have a number of courses that you can also take at your own leisure. So if you still want to brush up on your financial analysis, you can definitely take a course on that. And obviously that course will carry a number of credits behind it, but more than anything else, it will definitely solidify your knowledge of whatever aspect that you'd want to study. There is also a JPM magazine, Journal of Property Management magazine, which definitely has a number of articles that are of definite interest to those who are very much close to the industry in terms of what type of tools and activities different property managers across the globe actually utilize for maybe a problem that is definitely similar to yours. There are a number of platforms like IREM community, which is almost like a chat room of some sort, in which you can pose a question to its membership of about 20,000 members across the globe that definitely could provide you with some sort of feedback, answer, direction, guidance in terms of the problem that you would have. So you'll definitely always have somebody to give you some sort of direction in terms of how to tackle a problem. Then there's also the various textbooks that they've got. Textbooks that definitely deal with a number of skills that you'd probably want to gain. And obviously it would be good, like I see with your bookshelf, that would definitely be a good reference point. So I mean, there's quite a number of benefits, and especially, like I said, when you look at IREM being an institute more than a trade organization, there's quite a strong focus on professionally developing its members.
Yeah, no, and I see you spoke about the number of members sitting at around 20,000. That means you're part of a very big family. You know, you can always get help.
Yeah.
That's very
exactly
good.
that.
It's very good.
Exactly that.
Mr. Tumelo, thank you very much for your time. You have been very informative. I hope that this message helps the people watching it as much as it helped me. And I hope to get a lot more people signed up and designated as CPMs. And when the other designations come through, we also hope that they sign up to those as well.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Kelsey.